A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our News First studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's take a look at our stories making headlines this evening.
President highlights flaws of preferential voting system.
ඕනෑම අශීලාචාර වැඩක් කරන ඕනෑම අවිචාර වැඩක් කරන ඕනෑම සමාජයේ පිළි නොගන්නා පුද්ගලයෙකුට සුදුරෙදි අන්දවන්න මනාප ඡන්ද ක්‍රමය තුල පුළුවන්කමක් ඇති වුණා.
22,562 cases of dengue reported during the course of this year. Kenya and Jaila severely affected.
මගේ පුතාලා දෙන්නම නිගම ඉස්පිතාලේ හැදිච්ච ගෙදරට ඇවිල්ලා දුම ගහලා යනවා.
Smoking claims lives of 25,000 people annually.
ඒකේ 105 කුඩා දරුවෝ ඒ දෙමව්පියන් දුම්බිමකට ඒ දුම ආක්‍රමණය කළා දරුවෝ.
Erosion of the banks of the Daduru Oya places the people of Ariga Machilao in a precarious situation. Bangladesh beat Sri Lanka by 4 wickets in the second and final test to claim their first ever test win over the Sri Lankans.
And there it is for Bangladesh.
And now with the stories in detail. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party's new political academy was declared open this morning by President Maithripala Sirisena at the SLFP headquarters on Dali Road, Colombo.
The SLFP intends to educate young activists on contemporary politics and political economy through this academy. President Maithripala Sirisena enrolled the academy's first student at the ceremony held this morning. Some people question why we have photographs of Karl Marx and Lenin. The response that I give them is that I learnt my ABCs in politics from the ideologies of Karl Marx and Lenin, and that I consider them my teachers. Because the SLFP has held the position of head of state since 1994 and the power that accompanies it, the new young generation has not experienced the hardships endured when engaging politics in the past. When the 78 Constitution introduced preferential voting, it became unnecessary for political parties to discuss policy. The primary role of the preferential voting system became inflating personal egos and personalities. As a result, any uncivilized person who had committed any crime and had been rejected by society was able to don the garb of the Puritan. Political ideologies should be able to grow on the basis of policy free of personal egos. No matter what criticisms have been levelled or by whom, the SLFP has moved forward in the past 2 years. This political academy will become an important tool for the new generation to move forward and further strengthen the party armed with knowledge.
An outbreak of the dengue epidemic in the country has caused a matter of concern in several districts in the island. Reports indicate that 22,562 suspected dengue-related patients have been reported during the course of this year. The epidemic has severely affected the Kenya and Jaila areas, with over 1,000 patients admitted to the Kenya-based hospital as of yesterday. Now, reports also indicate that close to 3,000 dengue-related patients have been reported from the Gampa district this year. Newsfirst delves deeper into the outbreak of the dengue epidemic.
Locals of the Dadugamoya North area in Jaila say a large number of residents in Udamvita, Mahavatta and Cruzvatta villages are receiving treatment in hospitals for dengue. They say over 100 dengue patients from their villages have been admitted and are receiving treatment at the Nigambo, Ragama and Siduwa hospitals.
All of my 3 children have been diagnosed with dengue and are receiving treatment at the Siduwa hospital.
I just got back from the Nigambo hospital after being treated for dengue, and now my husband has got it. Both my daughters are receiving treatment at ward number 3 of the Nigambo hospital. Even I got dengue and I was admitted to the Ragama hospital. Both my sons are being treated at the Nigambo hospital for dengue. We ask that some measures be taken in this regard. The dengue epidemic has destroyed the entire village. The fever has spread to the entire village. Some measure has to be taken, but no one has come forward to do so. They fumigate the houses where people have contracted the fever and leave. But even then, I do not think this is a good solution. Now, a large number of families in this area have fallen to a state of despair because at least 1 or 2 children from each house are hospitalized. All we ask is that our children be saved from this.
The health office and the hospital raise awareness and they just fumigate, but they do not follow up.
On an inquiry made by Newsfirst from the area's public health inspector, he confirmed that there is a rise in the dengue epidemic in the area. Gampa Health Services Director Dr. Nalin Aryaratna said stricter measures are being taken to control the outbreak in areas including Jaila, which are worst affected by the epidemic. Our correspondent said 11 patients are receiving treatment at the Sidhuwa Hospital for dengue hemorrhagic fever.
There are several patients who reported to the hospital with fever. There are also a few patients whom we have to confirm if it is dengue. Approximately 3 to 4 patients are confirmed to have contracted the dengue fever.
Meanwhile, around 1,000 dengue patients have been reported from the division of the Kenya Medical Officer of Health over the past 24 hours. 66 schools which were closed in its education zone are said to be reopened tomorrow. Medical Officer of Health of Kenya, Dr. Ajit Abdul Majid, said 9 deaths have been reported from the MOH division within this time frame. Meanwhile, consultant physician of the National Dengue Control Unit, Dr. Prashila Samaravira, said measures have been taken to initiate a special dengue eradication program in the vicinity of the Trincomalee district.
A few officers appointed to eradicate dengue in the Western Province have been deployed to Trincomalee and Kenya to work in collaboration with the medical officers of health there to tackle the outbreak. An intensive care unit has also been established in Kenya to manage the patients, which doctors and nurses assigned for this process. Since this is the period where the virus is spreading, measures are being taken to prevent an outbreak.
A group of public representatives, including the Deputy Minister of Health, visited the Kenya-based hospital this morning to inquire into the spread of dengue in the Kenya area. Leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Minister Rauf Hakim, and Chief Minister of the Eastern Province, Hafiz Nazir Ahmad, were also present. Thereafter, correspondents said the group of public representatives attended the discussion held at the office of the Medical Officer of Health.
Now, speaking at an event held in Malvana today, Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne claimed the government has undertaken a major effort to curb the spread of non-communicable diseases.
We have been successful in curbing the spread of non-communicable diseases in the country in the recent past, and I was able to obtain a certificate from the World Health Organization declaring Sri Lanka a malaria-free country. Next, we received a certificate declaring that we were free from filaria. We will soon be free from tuberculosis, rubella and measles too. Of the communicable diseases, we are now combating HIV and dengue. We have undertaken a major effort to curb the spread of dengue. About 25,000 people die every year as a result of smoking, and about 5% of this number are children. Children inhale the fumes when their parents smoke, and then they die. The minister made these observations at a mobile medical clinic organized by the United Welfare Organization in Malvana. State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena and MP Chatura Senaratne were also present at the event, which was held at the Al Mubarak College in Malvana. During the program, journalists posed questions to State Minister Ruwan Wijewardena on the resolution in Geneva. Any individual can express their opinion. This discourse is taking place within the government too. There is much talk about the federal system. There are some MPs who support a federal system. There are some who oppose it. We must talk about all of this, and eventually it is the people of the country who must take a decision together. No matter what decision is made, it will be done in consultation with the people.
A conference titled Waligama Declaration Revisited was held at the Government Information Department this morning.
The conference was held under the auspices of Speaker Karu Jayasuriya. The Waligama Declaration was signed in 2006 under the theme Role of Media for National Unity. The conference was organized by Bakir Marker Centre for National Unity.
Because we had the freedom, we were able to put our colonialists on their knees and get our freedom. But we saw many unpleasant things in the 70s and the 80s. We have paid with our lives and our property. We have faced major tragedies. We have ruined the image of our country before the world. We have destroyed ourselves. The country cannot move forward like this. If we are to triumph before the world, we must bring the issues we have among ourselves to a minimum. In the name of God and for the sake of our children's future, we have to determine what is right and what is wrong. All 9 independent commissions are in operation today and quite successfully as well. There is huge satisfaction mentally when we see these commissions in operation. Today we can be happy that the commissions which were suggested by the Waligama Declaration back then are in operation. Another thing which we hoped for at the time was a new electoral system. Rather than a system where they kill each other for votes and waste billions of rupees, an electoral system is being proposed to create an environment which will enable a citizen to appoint a respected person who they can call an honourable MP. or where a candidate can travel even on his bicycle to obtain votes. I sincerely hope and pray that we can accomplish this as well in the future. As a government, we will not lay a finger on anything that compromises the freedom of the media. We are now obliged to give information on any institution. No institution can deny a person information when requested. According to the Act, the people have received the right to obtain information. We held talks to create an independent regulatory commission for the media. We need to further affirm the freedom of journalists. We have to take measures to secure the safety of their information. As a government, we will not try to enforce anything on anyone. Just like we formulated the Right to Information Act, which was rated as the third strongest act in the world, we will obtain the views of the media sector, the public and all experts in the field to create an independent regulatory commission within 3 months. We hope to bring this to Parliament soon. Even when the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was presented, we saw how they attempted to include such provisions among the positive provisions in that amendment. At that time, citizens' organizations and stakeholders in the media sector opposed this move. They took the matter to court and changed the amendment. Those provisions had to be withdrawn. Against this backdrop, if they are once again attempting to set up commissions or institutions in order to steer the media according to the whims of the state, it is a serious problem. It is undemocratic. We cannot decline when it comes to democracy. Is this what they are preparing to do? Publishing what we want and what is positive to us through the media is not democracy. Dissent and criticism are an important element of the fundamentals of democracy. If they cannot uphold this, if they cannot bear it, if they cannot face it, then it's not a sign of good governance. If they are attempting to carry out state-sponsored oppression of the media or to steer the media as per the whims of the state, we are not prepared to accept it. The Mahinda Rajapaksa regime too made various such attempts. If the good governance government, which was elected because of the force that built against such attempts made by the previous regime, is now attempting to appoint such commissions to control and steer the media, then it is a very serious matter. This government came into power on a promise to uphold democracy and ensure democratic rights. But soon after coming into power, this government attempted through the 19th Amendment to limit the people's right to express their views via the media and to limit the media's criticism of the government. In the end, the inclusion of these provisions in the 19th Amendment was prevented through judicial action. Later, the government trumpeted about the Right to Information Act and adopted it. They say it upholds the right to information and that it is the best act of its kind in the world. We have submitted our criticisms, but the government continues to claim that the act upholds the right to information. Against this backdrop, with the statement made by the media minister today, it appears to us that they are in the process of drafting another bill which will curtail the Right to Information Act. It is clear to us that they are attempting to censor the media when the media reports on fraud, corruption and violation of procedure on the part of the government. While they came into power claiming to uphold democracy, it seems they are attempting to violate democracy. If the government attempts to adopt oppressive laws which curtail the people's freedom of expression or the people's democratic rights, then we are prepared to defeat such legislation through a united front.
Several lives were lost due to accidents that were reported during the past 24 hours. Tragically, a father and son and a mother and daughter lost their lives in separate accidents.
A mother and daughter and another individual who was standing at a bus stop in the Egodowana area in Moratuwa were killed by a reckless driver. The accident occurred when a lorry back-ended a bus, causing it to crash into the bus stop. The 60-year-old mother and 15-year-old daughter, who was a grade 9 student at Bauddha Loka Vidyalaya, were residents of Pingwala in Panadura. A 68-year-old man from Egodowana was also killed in this accident. The drivers of the private bus and the lorry were remanded until the 29th of this month after they were produced before courts. Meanwhile, a father and a son were killed in another accident reported in Vakare, Batikalo. The accident occurred when a private bus collided with a three-wheeler.
It has been reported that W.M. Mendes and Company, owned by Arjun Aloysius, who has been implicated by the Parliament Committee on Public Enterprises in the central bank bond controversy, is in the process of constructing an alcohol distillery in Calcutta, Batticaloa. The Sunday Times newspaper reported today that the company may receive a major tax concession for the construction of this distillery under a budget proposal effective this year.
According to a front-page story on the Sunday Times today, under a budget proposal effective this year, Arjun Aloysius' liquor manufacturing firm W.M. Mendes & Co. is likely to receive a 100% capital allowance for locating its proposed 4 billion rupee alcohol distillery at Calcutta in the Batticaloa district. According to the newspaper, approval to set up a grain-based extra-neutral alcohol or ENA distillery was granted to W.M. Mendes well before the 2017 budget proposals were announced. The newspaper reports that the paper trail shows that authorization was given just 18 weeks after a presidential election that was won, among other things, on a premise of eradicating drugs and alcohol. According to the report, the Fiscal Policy Department wrote to the Excise Department on the 13th of May 2015, saying the ENA distillery was approved as a pilot, while the latter gave the requisite clearance a record 2 days later. The newspaper points out that both departments were, and still are, under the purview of Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake. Furthermore, the Sunday Times reports that while construction was soon started on a 19-acre land that the company bought for 10.7 million rupees, work has now temporarily halted on an order of the Korale Pattu Pradeshya Sabha. Earlier this year, JVP Politburo member Wasantha Samarasinghe also spoke on the issue on Newsfirst's Newsline segment.
The Arjuna Mahendrans and the Arjuna Aloysiuses were born to steal. They stole from the central bank. Prior to that, they stole from the Employees Provident Fund through the stock exchange. Now, Arjuna Aloysius has brought W.M. Mendes and Co. with the money they stole. The son-in-law, the central bank's governor's son-in-law. Now the Mendes company has not paid excise duties owed to the government. Normally these taxes must be paid every 15 days and only then will the license be renewed. As of the 31st of December 2016, the arrears amounted to 720 million rupees of taxes owed to the government. Even in January 2017, the arrears amounted to 120 million. So the total is 840 million. If this is false, prove it. They have engaged in tax fraud. In spite of the tax fraud, the Finance Ministry has intervened to secure the license renewal. If this is false, come forward and say so before the entire country.
Attention was drawn to the issue at the Development Coordination Committee meeting held in Eravur, Batticaloa on the 16th of this month.
Batticaloa has the most number of liquor shops in the country. There was a demand from the people that no more liquor shops be opened here. But after the good governance came into power, not only liquor shops, an alcohol distillery is being opened in Calcutta under the chairmanship of Arjun Aloysius. The cost of this project is 4.5 billion rupees. The district secretary, the divisional secretary, the Pradeshya Sabha and even the divisional secretary in Vala, Chennai attempted to stop this. But this is continuing without the approval of the Pradeshya Sabha.
A Newsfirst camera captured this footage today of the ongoing construction of the alcohol distillery in Calcutta, Batticaloa, as claimed by the MP. This issue was also brought up at several media briefings and political programs held today. What the government and Ranil Wickremesinghe should have done wasn't to cover up the bond scam and protect the thieves or argue that the thieves hadn't stolen. What they should have done was to follow judicial process, file cases against these people via the central bank, recover the losses incurred by the country, remove perpetual treasuries from the list and prevent the harm caused to the economy. Then they could claim one day that they did not earn money from the bond scam. They earned this money from distilleries, from ruining media institutions, construction companies and other businesses. There are many major thieves who claim that they do not need to steal because they have plenty of wealth earned through various means. Aloysius and Mahendran, who are involved with the bond scam, are continuing with their business operations. We know that Aloysius is buying up media institutions through perpetual treasuries and is making various other investments. The government is yet to impose any kind of ban on these operations.
We are getting reports from various quarters that the company that is involved in the bond scam, which is now under an investigation by the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, is going on at a rate, investing monies in various fields in the country. And these fields also, as it is reported, include media organizations. So it is a very questionable thing when an investigation is going on about the genuineness of their earnings. And on the other hand, when they get into the fields of media stations and so on, when they recruit people to such places at very high rates, going beyond all accepted norms of business norms in the country, because they can afford to do it. So the people who join such places will be at a great danger, because if the commission decides one day that this money has to be recovered and it is illegitimate money that is earned by this company, and if the legal processes are commenced, the employees who join these places, these new ventures, will find in great difficulty.
K.R.A. Siddique, the chairman of the Kandy Municipal Mosques Federation, was assaulted during an event held in Kandy last night. Now, it has been reported that the attacker is a central provincial councillor representing the United National Party.
The chairman of the Kandy Municipal Mosques Federation, K.R.A. Siddique, is currently being treated at the Kandy General Hospital. UNP Provincial Councillor Lafiq Hajiar has constantly levelled death threats at me. A program was held at the Jinnah Memorial Hall last night and it concluded at about 10 p.m. I was attacked soon afterwards and I lost consciousness and fell. I was admitted to the Kandy hospital and I regained consciousness in the morning. If a person who holds a position in society like me can be attacked in this way, what would happen to other people? I have complained to the police, but he has not been arrested. He is a henchman of Minister Kirialla and he uses that power to harass various people. I asked the police to serve justice. When News First made inquiries, a spokesperson for the Kandy police noted that investigations have been undertaken through 2 police teams.
Minister Mahinda Amaravira today expressed the need for national policies that do not change with the change of ministers. The minister made this observation during an event held in Hambantota today.
The foundation stone for the new staff hostel building of the Debukava Mahavidyalaya in Middeniya was laid by the Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. We need to make a national policy for education and all other ministries. The purpose of the national government should be to make a national policy. We need to do this at a time when the country's 2 major parties are united. If we don't do this now, we will never be able to do it. Therefore, we need a national policy for education. We need a national policy for health, for the fisheries and agriculture ministries as well. These national policies cannot change with the minister. The so-called national policies that we have today change when the subject minister changes. I am fulfilling the responsibility that was entrusted with me to comply with the national policy for the Ministry of Fisheries.
Financial assistance was provided today to members of youth clubs in the Hambantota district at an event held at the head office of the Hambantota District Youth Services Council. The event was held under the auspices of Minister Sachit Premadasa.
270 youth who are to take part in the Younpura program that is scheduled to take place in Trincomalee were provided with financial aid by the minister. In the recent past, the Federation of Youth Clubs was under the grip of one family. All youth clubs acted according to the whims and fancies of a certain powerful youth. The entire Youth Services Council was politicized. State funds were wasted. What happened in the end? They stole the biggest strength that my father gave to the youth of this country. You need to know that when candidates are selected for nominations of provincial council elections, 40% of the candidate list must be allocated to the youth between the ages of 18 and 35. That was a law brought in by my father. He did not bring it in out of the blue. He brought it in following a recommendation of the Youth Unrest Committee. We have heard various taglines in the past. But in the end, the previous regime annulled the right of the youth to contest for provincial council elections.
The Vice President of Puntland, an autonomous state in northeastern Somalia, has reportedly visited the Sri Lankan sailors who were on board the ship recently rescued from Somali pirates. Now, will these men return to Sri Lanka next week, or will they continue to crew the ship on the journey to Mogadishu?
A felicitation ceremony was held today for the 8 Sri Lankan sailors and the security personnel who were able to rescue them within 2 days of their capture. News First received these images of the event that was held at the Bosaso port. The crew had informed their families in Sri Lanka today that they would take a decision on their return home within this week. They had noted that if a new crew does not report for duty, they may have to continue to the next stop, which is Mogadishu.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.